even as we celebrate.
That's true.
And, applause all the mothers. There's also a journey that they take. And part of that journey could be, there's a lot of brokenness that happens. But also, also just to say that mothers can also be a source of grief. And
broken homes as well.
And broken homes as well. And it's important to address that issue.
Yes.
And just to say, you know what? You might be in that place, you feel broken, and you are also a candidate to break another home or your home.
True.
But God is able to do something great.
That's true. That's true. And I think it's an important conversation, and I'm really, really honored to be here, because it's another conversation that we have had for years in Ndiema. We celebrated motherhood, we celebrated mothers. And the truth is, sometimes we didn't encourage women to come out and say, look, I'm hurting.
Right.
Look, I'm raising children, I am here as a wife, but I'm hurting. And therefore, because we never really had a moment to have that conversation, then we never actually had a conversation on wholeness. And I think that's an important conversation to have, so that then we can begin to change the trajectory of our lives and of motherhood. By the grace of God, we can indeed become the salt and the light within our homes, within our families, wherever we go, because the light is shining from within. That's the conversation that I want us to go to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the direction that Ndiema has actually pointed out.
Yes.
That sometimes mothers can be the source. Actually, we celebrate them, but sometimes if we don't check ourselves and our hearts, and if we are broken, if we are wounded, we could also be the cause and the reason for even our homes. That ripple
cycle
effect,
keeps on. Yes, that's true.
Goes back to our family. Yeah.
Yes. And I like when you say that sometimes we could be the cause of the pain. Sometimes we may not even understand that we are carrying pain. Sometimes we just know that there's a sense of emptiness within us, and we will affect other people. We will affect our families. We will affect our children. We will affect our workplaces. And so it's important for us to stop, because in our African culture, we are used to covering things under the carpet. And because we celebrated womanhood, or we celebrate womanhood without taking time to understand what exactly does wholeness look like, what exactly does a whole woman look like, and where could it be that sometimes I carried pain from the past that hinders me from being able to express that fullness. And so then we can come to the place where we begin then to change the trajectory of our lives, like you're saying, breaking the cycle, so that we are able then to raise whole teenagers, whole families, whole impact lives, impact the workplaces in a whole different way, because we are whole. Because you see, the thing about it is sometimes, especially because we were moved more into the corporate. So we moved into the corporate spaces and learned the lingo of the corporate space, where then we were fighting to rise up the corporate ladder, which then taught us somehow to begin then to diminish our femininity. And I don't think that is what God desires for us to have. And because we are kingdom people, Ndiema, we are saying, we can rise up in the corporate place, we can be successful at home, we can be successful wherever we go, by the reason of wholeness.
Interesting. I love that. What are some, I know people are listening to us and they're wondering, mimi niko poa, because you've said sometimes we don't know.
Yes.
So what are some of these things that you can see can break a woman, or you can be unaweza kuwa hurt and maybe you don't know it's happening? And are there samples we can carry from the scriptures?
Yes.
From that we can learn from?
Yeah. I think I like to go back to the Word of God. Let's go to the book of Ruth. Yes, hiyo ndio tunajua, si ni watu wa kingdom. Yes, twende Ruth chapter 1. From verse 20, sio?
All right.
I had it, let me just, So it says, but she said to them, do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me?
Yes. So you see, at that point, Naomi was saying, I left this place full, but I am coming back empty. And I want you to realize that Naomi was coming from the house of bread, Bethlehem. And then she went to Moab. At the time that she was leaving Bethlehem, she had a husband, she had children, she had provision, and that's why they could actually afford to leave when this place wasn't functioning.
Right.
You understand? So you can tell that they were a well-to-do family. And then she had a pedigree. She was a Jew.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yet, how often is it that even as women, we have described ourselves by my husband, my children, my job, my money, my finances, my status, the family that I came from. And yet, Naomi got to that place where all that she knew was challenged. She lost her husband, she lost her children, she lost provision, and she went to a place, Moab, where, truthfully speaking, they didn't care about her being a Jew, so her pedigree did not matter. And so, Charity, it's important for us, even as women, to come to that place where, yes, you're married, but your marriage does not define you. Yes, you have children, but your children do not define you.
Yes.
Yes, you have a job, but your job does not define you. Yes, you have money, but your money does not define you.
Absolutely.
Because that definition becomes your identity.
That definition becomes a warped identity.
I like that.
That it's so fickle. If something goes wrong, it's almost like as if all of you is lost. Should you go through a divorce, and we're not praying for divorce. We are saying that once you understand your sense of identity, the way you approach marriage is different. You approach marriage from the place of, this is a ministry.
Wow.
It is not who Judy is.
Wow.
I am here to serve. I have been given children. They are not mine. I am simply a steward. They are not they are not everything that defines me. So that you don't have to control the destiny of your children. You don't feel like you have to control how your family look. That you have to have a picture perfect image for you as a woman then to feel successful.
That actually deliberates a lot of women, even those who
are single,
and that defines them. The fact that they are not married.
The fact that you're not married, you are a mother enough.
Yeah.
You are a woman enough.
I love that.
The fact that even right now you might be struggling financially, you are good enough. But yet, it takes Naomi to come into that place of emptiness where everything within her was removed.
And everything
everything that she knew was taken away from her. You know what? Many of us, when we encounter that place of a broken relationship, of not having a job, of not having status, of not having a pedigree, we almost lose it.
Absolutely.
But Naomi came into that place, and you see when she comes into that scripture, she says, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because I am bitter. Don't call me sweetness, call me this. She had to come to that place when she went back to Bethlehem.
Right.
To the place where she came from. We're not asking you to go back where you came from. We are asking you to go back to the memory of your mind, to remember who were you before you encountered the losses, before those things that seemed to define you seemed to be taken away from you.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, that's so powerful, because we have literally blessed our, those identities.
Yes.
In the wrong places.
Yes.
And the brokenness that comes with that when those things are not there.
And I can tell you, Ndema, it's more for a woman.
Exactly.
It's more for a woman, because I'm not only struggling with my own identity, then I get married, I'm struggling to become Mrs. So-and-so, and then
children come.
Then I'm struggling to become a member of the family, of the entire family of wherever I came from.
Right.
Then I'm struggling to keep up with a job. It is so much more for a woman that the degree of brokenness is amazing.
That's true. Look at the additions of a woman when she gets married, for example.
Yes.
There is the addition of your husband.
Yes.
She becomes part of your the things you carry.
Yes.
When children come, your in-laws. You know, you in Africa, the African culture, when you're married, unaenda huko. So hiyo pia inakuwa something that you have to carry.
Yes.
So when brokenness comes, it shatters.
It
all
shatters
this
all that. And we see it even evident in Naomi's life. She becomes bitter, and you can see how she then began to deal even with Orpah and Ruth.
Right. Wow.
You begin to isolate. There's nothing about, you feel like you have nothing to give anyone.
Is that the cause of the, like, why sometimes you will tend to, when you're broken or when you're in that situation,
Yes.
you start to, I don't want to call it ignore, but like you don't want people, like now you just want to be alone. You deal with your own things. You feel like you cannot take care of other people anymore.
It's a sense of unworthiness that comes upon someone, especially because if your whole sense of worth was depending on, for example, a relationship, if the relationship goes, then you have nothing to give. If your sense of worth was all dependent on a job, if the job goes, then you have nothing to give.
Wow.
That's right. Actually seeing the importance of not actually putting your worth on the things that you actually have acquired. As you're saying, that is not who you are.
Yes.
So for, in this case, for Naomi,
yes.
How, as a woman, I'm trying to think like today, how can we now like come out of that?
Naomi had to collide. She had to come into that place where she collided with her past. She had to come back to that place where she collided with Bethlehem. When she collided with Bethlehem, then the people who knew her remembered Naomi for who she was. So you have to remember yourself for who you were before the pain, before the heartbreak, before all these things that happened to you that seem to take away your sense of identity.
You're going back to the basics.
You have to go back. You have to remember who you were, because your identity, going back to Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. The chip is located within you. The only thing is, because of the situations and circumstances of life, you seem to forget who God created you to be.
Wow.
So if you can go back to your version of Bethlehem and remember who you were, and that means you have to accept. Naomi came to that place and said, I left here empty, full. I'm coming back empty.
Yeah.
So and I am bitter. I was sweet, but now I'm bitter. You have to you have to acknowledge. The reason why it becomes a challenge is because sometimes you're so used to this that you don't realize that there's something that's wrong. So Naomi had to come to that place of saying, she collided with her children, and then she said, no.
No, it is not. This is not it.
This is not it. Yeah, this is not the sweet Naomi. Yes. So you have to come to that place where you come and into contact with who you are, and then you accept it.
That's so powerful.
Yes.
And I'm not a woman. I did not even want to be in this conversation. But I know that a lot of women are in that place where they have forgotten
who they are
and lost their, you know, the sweetness.
Yes.
So please, woman, please hear this from a man. You need to re-engineer. You need to go back and say, this is not it. I cannot stay here. I need to turn this around. We need to take a short break. All right? So as you ponder about that, yani wewe ni nani sahi? Sahi wewe ni nani?
Na ulikuwa
nani? You know?
Yes.
That's it. I mean, that's where it really, you know, boils down to. So we take a short break. We'll be coming back to continue this conversation. And I like it because as we celebrate you, we're also saying you need to go back and get the real self, the sweetness that was in there. All right? See you in a bali.